Hey, everybody. Welcome back to another episode. Hey there, Kate.
Hello, hello.
Hello. Okay, so today we are going to dive into a topic that is dear to our hearts, and also I think kind of an eye-opening topic for a lot of people, especially people who are just kind of thinking about going freelance with copywriting. Now, to be very clear, we teach our students how to land full-time jobs as copywriters or how to land freelance work, or if they want to do both or any combination of that. But today we're going to talk specifically about the benefits of working freelance, and how the idea of there being a safety in working a full-time job is not quite as safe as it seems to be.
Yeah, I think when we have full-time jobs, we often put a lot of trust in the company that they value us. And hopefully, if you're working for a good company, they do, and they value you as an employee. Um, but that doesn't mean that other factors aren't going to come into play where you might have to be let go. I think there's consistency in the paycheck, and I think that's why a lot of people like it. There's benefits in terms of healthcare and 401k and things like that. But there's always that possibility that the economy goes south, or someone gets bought, or downsizing is happening. There's so many reasons why you just never know, right?
I think it's really important for people to remember that as much as you may love your full-time job, or as much as you may feel comfortable there, or you may have put in many years there, or you may be very loyal to the company, when a company exists, its primary purpose is to continue to exist. And if things get crazy in the economy, or if it has to downsize, or if it's or if there's a merger, or any number of things, the company's first goal and first priority is going to be for the company to continue to exist and to thrive and to prosper, and that is regardless of what it means for staff members. And I know that sounds kind of it makes companies sound callous, and I realize that companies are made up of people, of course, but a company is a physical entity. If they can't continue to prosper and thrive, then everybody loses their jobs.
Mm-hmm.
And so what that means sometimes is that instead of everybody losing their jobs and the doors closing, they have to lay off team members, or they have to, or a merger or an acquisition means that they have to get rid of people who are now redundant, or as we saw in the craziness of 2020, when the economic landscape changes, something totally like nobody could have predicted that in any way. And it wasn't just restaurants and travel companies that were faced with this issue. Companies that had anything to do with basically the entertainment industry had issues. I'm thinking of even companies that had to do with like restaurant delivery, which you're like, oh, well, delivery was great. They still had to lay people off because there weren't as many restaurants. Like I could go, but the ramifications were huge, and there was no way that anybody could have predicted that. But
Mm-hmm.
in all those scenarios, the business's primary goal was to continue to survive. And unfortunately, what that means is even if you are loyal. I feel like I hear that a lot when people have been laid off or something. They're like, I can't believe this. I was so loyal to that company.
Or I've been there for 10 years, 20 years,
Yes.
whatever it is.
Yeah. And unfortunately, that doesn't mean that the company owes you anything back.
Mm-hmm.
Which I know probably sounds a little harsh too, but it's, you gave your work and the company paid you for your work. And that doesn't mean that you're going to have a job tomorrow. Maybe if you've been there a little bit longer, that means that you will continue to have your job. Or at some companies, if you've been there for a while, you're more expensive than your other coworkers, and they're going to let you go first. So that loyalty and that tenure doesn't necessarily, or a longer tenure doesn't necessarily translate to being to having a better chance of keeping your job.
Mm-hmm. And I mean, it doesn't even have to be 2020. I know you and I both left a company right before they actually acquired another company. And the entire copy team that was there, which I think was 5, 6 people or whatever it was, ended up being downsized to one person. And I believe maybe someone else kind of, transferred within the group. But it was this moment of like, this is the best move for the company. So we're going to acquire this, or so they thought, best move for the company. Debatable, who knows? But so, it was a positive for the company of, oh, we're acquiring this other company that fits in our portfolio. But it didn't mean everyone's jobs were saved at that point. And that's, again, outside of this, had nothing to do with any sort of recession or with the economy. This was just a business decision.
Yeah.
So it can really happen at any point. And I think the big thing for folks who are maybe doing freelance for the first time, or even, just getting started in it, is that there's this big mindset shift is really what needs to happen from going, from being used to full-time employment to going freelance. And it's, I think one of the big things, at least for me, is not thinking into the future so much. Yes, you want to look at your goals, you want to look at what's beyond, but I think when you're in a full-time job, there is that illusion of safety, because we just think, oh, I'm going to be employed here indefinitely. This is an ongoing thing, and I'm not looking for anything else. And so there's this kind of, feels like you're on this train track and nothing can derail it. Versus freelance, I think you're prone to looking day to day and like, oh my God, I got to get my next client. Where's my next client coming from? And so there's this anxiety where, if you can make some subtle shifts with how you're approaching it and thinking about it, it will hopefully, it'll take time. I've been there too. I think we've all been there of like that first freelance. And I know Nicki and I have talked about this. January comes and there's this feeling of like, I'm starting over from scratch. I've made nothing. It's January. It's fresh. But I mean, I think one of the biggest things is, and we teach this in the academy, is constantly pitching. So if you're setting yourself up to constantly be sending those pitches, you're going to have, there's more likelihood that more things are coming back. And so you have this consistent process. And, I think one of the biggest things when you get in that mindset full-time, you kind of get complacent. And I know that's maybe not a positive way to say it, but I've been there. It's easy. It becomes comfortable, and it becomes easy not to think about anything beyond, okay, this is it. Versus when you're freelance, really taking those actions is what's going to help you get over that feeling of not feeling safe. That's what's going to create your safety.
Yeah, exactly. I think one of the reasons that people perceive freelance as being risky is because they don't have any understanding of how you get clients. People think, okay, you go freelance, because people say like, oh, well, going freelance is, don't do that. That's just to find a full-time job. Freelance is scary. You never know what you're going to get. And that's not at all how it works. If you are a effective professional freelancer, unfortunately, I'm sure there are a lot of freelancers out there who are like, cross my fingers, hope for a client, but that's wishing and hoping is not a system. If you want to be a professional freelancer and you want to be successful at it, you need a system. And when you have a system, which is part of what we teach, when you have a system for pitching and landing and following up and repitching and all that kind of thing with clients, and you're doing that consistently, then you are in control of the opportunities and the income that's coming in. If you need to make a little bit more money, if you have a bigger, if you have a bill that comes in or something like that, then you ramp up the clients that you're working with. If you're busy, then maybe you scale back the pitching that you're doing. But when you are freelance, and again, you have to have a system. It can't just be like, oh, gee, I'm waiting for a job, or I'm waiting for someone to approach me, or I'm going on Upwork or Fiverr every day and I'm hoping somebody's going to post a job. I'm hoping they're going to choose me. Those are not systems. But when you do have an effective system and you are in control of your income and your schedule and all that kind of thing. Whereas when you are on staff, you have given up that control for the illusion of safety. Because again, like we were saying, you could lose your job at any moment, and you lose so much. Please don't, I'm saying this to people listening and watching, not to you, because I know you and I are on the same boat, Kate, but don't get us wrong. being on staff as a copywriter can be fantastic. We both have done it. We've been on staff. We've been on, if an opportunity comes up with a company, then we've taken it because we wanted to do the work, or we wanted to work with the people, or anything like that. But you also can't forget that when you are on staff, you have given up control. They decide how much you make. If you're like, "Ooh, I have all these bills coming in, I want to make some more cash," you can't do that through your full-time job. You can't go into your boss and be like, "Hey, I'm gonna work some extra hours this week, so I'd like you to pay me $5,000 more for the month." Like, that's not how it works. They don't care how much you're working. You're still going to get that salary. And even with contracting, you're usually kind of limited by how much time. Whereas if you're a freelancer, you can say, "All right, I'm going to ramp up the work that I'm doing." Thanks for watching. Make sure you don't miss any tips, tools, or tactics for copywriters by clicking subscribe right now. And of course, you can always find us over at filthyricwriter.com. We'll see you next time.